Hi people, early hours of the morning, so I'm going to try not to speak too loudly. Now, I'm at around several sort of points in my channel. I'm close to 2,000 subscribers. I'm going to make a video specifically about that, and I've had over 4,000 videos. I've had a huge number of videos, although my channel's far from viral. I do have a big video output, but individual videos average around 60 views. Some get hundreds and thousands, but most average around 60. Um, so I'm sort of working with that sort of data going forward. Um, but just for this video, I want to touch on something which I don't want to single out in the general video, so it's a little bit more specific. It's about comments on my channel, and just so that subscribers know where I lie with this. Um, I feel that a creator has to be as open as possible. And I've never been a fan of sort of channels that just close comments, whether they be individuals or some actually TV shows. I think Good Morning Britain does that. I might be misquoting that, it may be another show, but I think it's a mistake because you're basically depriving people of a voice. So I've always taken the approach that I'm going to allow comments, whether they agree with me, whether they disagree with me, or what. I believe in free speech. Um, so I've always taken that approach, and I will continue to do so. So basically, you could disagree with me on this channel. You could say, but Nathan, it's this angle or it's that angle, and that's fine. I do not want an echo chamber where people just blindly agree with me. Actually, one reason I don't want that is it's not the whole picture. I honestly, if everyone just agreed with me, I would be a little bit suspicious. I would think, what's the catch here? Although, of course, it's nice to find common ground, and I'm very grateful for all the support I get. The ratio on my videos is the thumbs up, thumbs down thing. It's roughly 75% thumbs up and the remaining roughly 25% thumbs down. Some videos that isn't balanced. I've had a few videos where I've been in the minority, and the thumbs up ratio, thumbs down, I've clearly triggered some people, but most of them I tend to hit some sort of consensus. But my tolerance only goes so far, and what I mean by that is there are certain things that I do have a problem with, and certain things that go beyond, I think, simply disagreeing. In tolerating different points of view, I do not want my platform to become a kind of safe space for people whose views I find repugnant. Beyond just disagreeing with someone. Now, I'm going to quote a comment made by Richard Harvey, 1732, just as an example. I'm not picking on him, but it's just an example. There are others of the sort of thing that I'm talking about, and I'll read out my response because just in case he removes his own comment, this is on my video specifically entitled "The Holy Land War: My Thoughts Right Now." It was a couple of videos back. Anyway, this is from Richard Harvey, 1732. High centrist philosopher, are you saying that any sympathy for the ordinary citizens of Palestine implies uncritical support of the militants? He uses the word militants, not terrorists. Is that the same as saying that because some police officers in Britain commit appalling crimes, all serving officers are equally guilty of those crimes? Now, automatically, he is completely distorting what I've said. I've never equivocated Hamas with the Palestinian people, and I think I made that very clear in the video. So I take issue with someone automatically misattributing something that I've said. But, that happens on the internet. I'm not going to ban someone for that alone, but it is just false. I haven't equivocated Hamas with the Palestinian people. It appears that you're thinking in simplistic terms of one side versus another side, when in reality every individual has their own peculiar view of things and their own differing opinions, which is why I allow people their opinions. But that's a strange comment to make because, firstly, there's the Holy Land conflict is anything but simple, and I think I've made that clear. I don't think it's simple. I am supporting Israel in its right to defend itself, but I have also said I've real concerns about the situation in Gaza. In fact, my last video, I'll probably upload it before this one, I'm pretty clear about my moral concerns on both sides, but I'm not absolutely neutral, and I'm not going to pretend that I am. I also think you should be more sensitive to the fact that all this attention these things get in the public domain are all and only reverberations of the actual events and have absolutely no effect on anything. There is the reality of an explosive event. There is then the fantasy of the sound echoing around the room. Well, Richard Harvey, if you want to become a journalist and you want to go under the ground, then train up, become a journalist and go on the ground. As it stands, I'm practically doing what I can. I'm not a journalist on the ground. I don't pretend that I am. But, if you're criticizing me for having opinions on this, then, prepare to criticize millions of people for having opinions on this. That's an absurd comment. Of course, being on the ground is a lot more raw and emotive. I would argue, actually, because it's so close, people are less likely to be thinking objectively because it's so close and raw and personal. So that's a ridiculous comment. But I want to focus on the issue of like what I allow, don't allow. You clearly have adopted a position that assumes that one of those sides that you perceive holds some sort of moral high ground, when as far as those who are caught up in the violence are all in exactly the same situation, regardless of who's at fault. For me, is that all that pain and that suffering, what is wrong and bad, and anyone who engages in the violence at any level for any reason is the avoidable cause of that suffering? Well, Richard, you are oversimplifying things. The irony that you're saying I'm oversimplifying things, you're oversimplifying things because Hamas hides behind civilians. You're clearly very ignorant about the details of this conflict. You should understand, now this is something that I really take issue with, you should understand by now that just like Al Qaeda and Daesh, Hamas is a creation of Western sponsored invaders. The only way to eliminate Hamas is to deconstruct Israel. Now, to me, everything he said up to that point was contentious, but fairly mainstream on the pro-Palestinian side. That Richard Harvey exposes your real thinking. You support the destruction of Israel. Now, I'm not removing the comment because I want people to see it for what it is, but that to me is thin ice, and I'll explain why in a minute. I do understand that within the narrow compass of your perception, you must think what you think you see is real, but human perceptions are notorious for their distortions. So this reads to me like a conspiracy theorist because they know best. They know things the rest of us don't. Any attempt to rationalize anything by excluding any detail just creates more distortions. Um, not only not until you can see the whole picture in terms that relate only to the experience of individuals, without any of the common shortcuts of group classification, will you even start to make any real sense of it all. Cheers, Richard. Well, Richard, it's impossible to bring in all the details in one video, and I think you know that, because I'd have to make an extensive documentary on the history of the Holy Land. Now, I don't have the means, the knowledge, or the time to do that. So what you're proposing is ridiculous. You're also a rank hypocrite because you have no content on your channel. So for all this pontificating you're doing against me, you have nothing to offer. You're just a voice in the wind. People could say I'm wrong, people could say they disagree with me or they even dislike me, but I'm simply someone who's offering my take. I happen to have a channel and that's what I'm doing. So Richard, you're full of it. Why don't you put some content in your channel? Let's see your face. Let's see what you really believe. Don't be a card. Don't be a card, because anyone can make a comment and, hide behind the fact that they've no content on their channel. So it's what I call a hit and run. He may respond, he may not. Anyway, this is my response. I'll just read it out. It's not excessively long. I don't want to give him more time than he deserves. 1. No, I am absolutely not saying that, and do not compare the terrorist death cult Hamas to ordinary Palestinians who suffer from their actions. I have huge sympathy for the suffering of civilians of both sides. Obviously, I'm opinionated on Hamas, as many people are. I think it's ridiculous to suggest that someone should be absolutely neutral on this just to prove that they, I don't know what to prove, but I think absolute neutrality is unrealistic. Clearly you have a deranged anti-West worldview. I'm not mincing my words because that's what I think of him. That's what I think of his views. And I recall you're the same individual who tried excusing the vandal who cut down the Sycamore Gap tree. This is, if you follow that video, it got a lot of views. This was a vandal who cut down a tree near a World Heritage Site, deeply unpopular in this region, and Richard sweeps in and claims it's down to social deprivation, a pathetic excuse for a criminal act. Now you're perversely arguing that all the problems of the Middle East can be blamed on the West. This shows your extreme ignorance, but also a toxic mindset, and I believe it does. I'm sure you're happy to live in the West, though. If you believe in the deconstruction of Israel is the answer, you're even more deranged than I thought. Israel is going nowhere. I won't censor your comment, but I find it tone deaf, reeking of ignorance and repugnant. The only reason I'm not removing it and you is that so far you haven't come out and tried justifying Hamas directly. But you're on thin ice here specifically with this deranged and factually wrong comment. And I'm quoting it again, you should understand by now that just like Al-Qaeda and Daesh, Hamas is the creation of the Western-sponsored invaders. The only way to eliminate Hamas is to deconstruct Israel. That could come straight from Press TV, the Iranian regime's mouthpiece. It's repugnant. It's factually wrong, and it is repugnant. And for your lengthy posts, you really are not making smart or logical arguments. If I see any more posts from you advocating the removal of the State of Israel, as opposed to simply disagreeing with its policies, which is valid, you will be blocked from my channel. Consider this fair warning. That's it for the record. Now, I've quoted all of this. This is everything that he said and what I've said. For fairness to him, he might remove that comment, he might not, he might respond, he might not. This is the sort of thing I'm talking about. When I have someone coming to my channel and talking about the removal of a sovereign state that is allies with the UK, coming out with Western phobic conspiracy theories that hold no basis in fact, that is something I have a very thin tolerance threshold for. So I won't remove the comment, but this is the sort of thing I'm talking about. I am not going to allow my channel to be a safe haven for anti-West vitriol. I'm not going to allow my channel to become a refuge for people who call for the state of Israel to be eradicated, or as he put it, deconstructed. What he really means is eradication. Shame on you, Richard Harvey. Shame on you. You've no content on your own channel, or very little. I don't know who you are, but this is the second time you've come to my channel. Now, I won't say you're trolling, because trolling implies just messing around. I think you really believe this stuff. But basically, going forward, I'm not going to censor comments, but I will have a tolerance threshold. And when people are coming out with Western-phobic bile, I believe in the West. You know, the UK is my country. I'm under no obligations to say you can have a free pass to spout out nonsense, to spout out Western phobia, because that's what it is. No, you could disagree with me. You could disagree with Israeli policies. You could disagree with British policies. Whatever. That's all fine. But when you get to the extent of actually calling for the removal of the Jewish state, that to me is a red line. And I'll allow it this time. But any more of that, Richard, you're gone. And I'm making this video for the reason of transparency, for the reason of fairness, and also as a bit of explanation as to what my approach to this is. The same applies to Putin supporters, the same applies to CCP supporters, anyone who supports totalitarianism, whether it be in the form of tyrannies like those in Moscow or Beijing or Tehran, or basically plays the devil's advocate for terrorist organizations. You know, do not be surprised if you disappear from my channel, because I'm not going to allow you to have the oxygen. Now, I said I believe in free speech, and I do, but that doesn't mean I have an onus to just let anything go. To me, it means I allow people to disagree with me. But there will be red lines, and that's one of them. So, you know, it will be at my discretion, and I will be fair. I will allow the vast majority of comments, but there are certain positions I don't have to tolerate on my own channel. If you think that's intolerant, go and make your own video, right? That is my message to those people who would take issue with this. You know, I allow a lot of different viewpoints on my channel, and I will continue to do so. I don't want an echo chamber, but there are certain things that I think crosses a line, and that's one of them. Okay, thank you for watching, and I appreciate all the support.